Hey, hey, hey.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
With my bad ears, I can hear you.
That's good.
Hi,
Hey,
everyone.
everyone.
Hi, Kumi.
How are we all doing?
How is everyone? Mums, are you ready for back to school? Have your kids gone back to school?
My niece started today.
Uh,
She
I'm
started
tomorrow.
secondary school.
Kel goes back tomorrow.
Are you excited?
Huh?
Are you excited that he's going to be going back to school?
Did you hear me complaining the whole quarantine about homeschooling? That boy is going back and he's going back. And I don't do sick days anyway, so there we go. He'll be fine.
Yeah, well,
Um,
you're that mum, yeah? You're that mum. The child is literally in the school.
Going to school, COVID or not. Joking. Oh, Davina said she's all right. She's still trying to get a grips with LinkedIn.
She will get there. You will get there. Don't you
Right,
worry.
right.
You're going to pin the topic.
Oh, God. What am I typing again?
This is can I just put it out there, yeah? We always get together just before our live. So about 8 o'clock, we kind of get together, make sure we're all together. And Anne Marie was talking to me about how she didn't have time for makeup.
I
Is
didn't.
it just, sorry,
That's why I put on lipstick.
is it just me? Can everyone just look at this, please, and tell me, does this look like someone that
Stop.
didn't have time for makeup? That's all I'm gonna say.
Look,
Straight face.
I'm not even gonna put myself like anyways, let's not talk about it. Why can't I pin this thing?
Is it not pinned?
Oh, what happened? What do you do again? Because this
Just tap it out.
bloody
It's difficult sometimes. Tap on it.
yeah, I did. Oh, it's gone. Stop it. Where is it? Here it is. Oh, there we go. Pin, yay.
Woohoo.
I mean, I changed the wording a little bit, but that's it.
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you. Said you always do that. Thank you.
I always do what?
Thank you. Try
All I,
try play it down, innit? Try play it down. No problem. It's all right.
oh my God, all I did was put on lipstick,
Mm-hmm.
literally, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my saving grace is
You're,
I got eyelashes done. So I
do
feel
you know
like I
what? I was
always look
looking at
made
them.
up.
I said your eyelashes are so pretty. They're very
I,
pretty.
having eyelashes done always feels like I'm made up now.
Yeah, yeah. Looks good. Looks good.
So excuse the fact that I have no eyebrows.
No one
Anyways,
noticed.
no one noticed. Good, good. Right. So as you guys know, we are talking about being your true authentic self, right?
Yeah, true,
Because
authentic self. Not wearing makeup and trying to act like you woke up like this.
listen, right? If you have any issues, you have to take it up with MAC Cosmetics Ruby Woo lipstick. Okay. Um, no, but being your true authentic self and how difficult a challenge it is, but how rewarding it is to be your true self. Because within that, that means that you understand who you are and know that staying true and staying authentic is a continuous journey. Um, you don't just wake up and go, do you know what? This is me, and I'm always just going to be my true self. I don't believe it. I'm not buying it, right? Because human beings like to slip into old habits. So I don't think that that's necessarily the case. And when we go into different environments and different situations, it tests your authenticity, and how willing or how firm you are in believing in yourself. That's what I feel, anyways.
So from your professional opinion, okay, so why do you think people struggle to be authentic? What's the like why are we even having a discussion about being your authentic self?
People, well, because we live in a world where people are fake as shit, right? People are just going around not really knowing who they are, hurting people, hurting themselves, not living their true purpose, um, blaming everyone for why things are not the way that they want them to be. And I think that a lot of that stems from people not being their true self and owning that and deciding that, you know what, this is me, this is what I like about myself, and maybe this is what I don't like about myself. But however, this is me, and
Mhm.
this is what I want in my life, and I'm gonna strive for it no matter what. And I'm not gonna
But
make any excuses.
yeah, so but if we're and this happens, right? So we find out that we end up in a situation where you are not being true to yourself. So whatever that means, you are emulating something else. And as you've identified, that often means we end up hurting ourselves anyway.
Mm.
So this doesn't just make sense. If we know we're going to end up not being true to ourselves and not being in a good place, then what are some of the maybe environmental? So actually, let's break that down. What are the environmental things that make people end up being fake or trying to fit in or something that's totally different from who they are?
Well, I mean, maybe it's a bit harsh to call people fake, but um,
I mean, we're doing real, isn't it?
but what I mean when I say fake is that you don't challenge your thought processes and your habits, right? So for example, we we've all grown up in families and households, right? And within them come with value systems, come with belief systems, right? Now, we might not necessarily believe in those belief systems, but we live our life through them. Why do you do that?
But
Why
so
would
from a
you do
family
that?
point of view, well, I can get that, particularly in from a family point of view, you're probably thinking, boy, if I don't follow that rule, mum or dad is not going to be impressed. So how do you,
Okay,
but in all
okay.
honesty, no, but seriously though, how do you deal with that if genuinely what you have been raised in is different?
How do you what? Sorry, I'm just trying to turn it up. How do you what? Sorry.
How do you deal with that? Honestly. So, and like, I think in my head, religion is
Mm,
the one that comes to my mind, which is probably the easiest for us to understand, but that probably relates to other areas.
yeah.
So, many people, they have maybe brought up in a Christian household, in a Muslim household, in a Jewish household, or something like that. So that's how you were raised. But as you got older, you decided that maybe doesn't resonate with you. How
Right.
do you go about dealing with that genuinely? How do you deal with,
Well,
I'm going to now
first,
be going against fact, like this is not work, this is your family.
yeah. Well, for me, first of all, the first thing that you need to do is the first thing you need to do is be honest with yourself, right? Why am I uncomfortable with these values and these belief systems?
Mm-hmm.
How do I see my life? How do I see the world?
Mm-hmm.
Is this in line with who I want to be?
Okay. So
And
when we
if it's
realize
not
it's
in
not,
line with who you want to be, who is it that you want to be? Because then what you have to do is you have to start challenging it, right? So for example, um, I work in well, I'm going to use the term that everybody understands. I also work in addiction, right? And society has this idea that you know, people are, for example, addicted to substances and they're an addict and they are sick and they cannot change that,
Mhm.
right? And AA is about, giving up the, power to the gods and whatever not, and that, the power is not within you, right? And the person is sick. Addiction is an illness. I don't believe that. I will challenge that belief system because in actual fact, the object, the alcohol, for example, is not an innate object. It cannot get up and come to your mouth, right? You develop a relationship with this substance. You develop a relationship with people, right? And you choose how you want to be in that relationship, right? You have to wake up every day, for example, and choose to pick up your bottle of whatever and drink it, or to take a drug or to inject it, right? Just like people who get hooked on prescribed medication, right? This is a choice that you're making, right? Just like how some people make choices around living a holistic, clean life, that they don't eat certain things. They don't. It's a lifestyle. It's a choice.
Mhm.
You're not ill because you made a choice, right? So we have to start challenging these systems. Start challenging these beliefs that tell us that things we are controlled by everything and that we don't have power and control. We do.
So
Life
someone's
can
just
be
said
whatever
they
you want.
disagree. It's not that
Pardon?
easy. Someone has just said come in. They disagree. It's not that easy.
Yeah, of course. Is life easy? Is life easy? Because I want to know someone in our age group that will wake up and say, do you know what? Life has been easy. It's like a breeze. Life ain't easy. When you're hit with challenges, when you face trauma, when you face any form of pain, loss,
Mhm.
right? It's not easy, but you have choices around that.
Okay, so
What,
I get
what,
that. So I
what?
agree. So it's not easy, and that's not what we're saying. So we're not saying it's easy. It's going to be very hard. But what we are saying is that you're not powerless. So basically,
Oh,
you're not powerless in this. You have a choice. So, but the thing is, in those situations when we're talking about being our authentic self. So let's say for example, you're in an environment or you're in a situation and often it's socially, right? So often socially you can get caught up into places that maybe are not in line with who you want to be, but it's the things. What is it? What would we call the things that you're yearning for that you get from continuing to be a part of that group? Because you're making a choice, yes, indeed.
mm,
And I've decided that I'm gonna do the group norm or I'm gonna follow this thing. What would we call it so that when we're
so
saying identify yourself, we know how to point that out so that we can be true in those
right.
situations.
But then that's the same thing about challenging what we believe about ourselves, right? Because all human beings, right, or most of us, I'm not going to say all because I know someone might not agree with that, but most human beings want yearn for a sense of belonging,
Yeah.
right? You want to know that you belong somewhere. You have friends, you have certain people around you, right? But then what we kid ourselves with is that we have say we have two sides of ourselves, right? In therapy we call it the adaptive self, right, and the authentic self, right? And they both have their good designs, why they're there,
Yeah.
right? The adaptive self that you have has been created as an adjustment. It's a creative adjustment in order for you to, for example, survive, in order for you to live through trauma, pain, and stuff like that, right? So you can imagine, for example, if you were a child and you experienced a lot of trauma, or you experienced parents who were unavailable, right? That couldn't give you the love that you needed. Okay. What you would do is create an adjustment. You would then have a creative adjustment to deal with that environment, right? That becomes your adaptive self. Okay. Right. It becomes your armor, your protection.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's not your true self. It's how
Yeah.
you have adapted because of the environment.
Excellent.
Right. So this is only supposed to be used in order to keep you safe. You're
Yeah.
not supposed to stay there. Right. And so what you want to do is find out who your true authentic self is.
Yeah.
Right? Because that place now, that adaptive self, no longer serves you. Okay? It no longer serves you to think that or feel that all men are going to leave you because your dad left.
Yeah.
And so you behave according to that.
So, okay, so one of the key things then, what we're kind of saying, so we're starting with a foundation, and I agree with you, because whenever I think about being authentic and being your true self, it's all about self-awareness.
Mm.
100% about self-awareness. And I think one of the things I would say as a takeaway is one of the reasons I have been successful in being my true self personally and most importantly professionally, and we'll get into more detail than that, because I have very good self-awareness. I'm very much aware of who I am. I'm very much aware of how I present to other people. And I think so in that guise of what you were saying about your true authentic self and your adaptive self and what that is and putting yourself out there, I think because, and that self-awareness, which I think is knowing what I'm good at, knowing my areas where I'm not necessarily the greatest, and
Mm.
accepting what I can and cannot change,
Yeah.
and not kind of dwelling on that. So for example, I'm dyslexic, and what that means is any form of writing activities and a few other things, it just takes me a lot longer. It doesn't matter how many times I read over something, I will still post something and there will be an error. I read it a million times, and without a fail, there will still be an error. So rather than beating myself up about it, I've decided I'm not going to stress about that. I go through the process of making sure I try to check it as much as possible. And then after I posted it, a little while after, I'll go back to it again and try and pick up those errors. I'm not going to kill myself for it, because even if I try to kill myself, the dyslexia is not going to go anywhere. It's not magically going to overnight, am I going to get better? I developed a lot
Right.
of coping strategies because I knew what I needed to do for that.
Right.
And then so therefore, I'm very aware of that, and I wear it straight away so that nobody can use it against me. So you can't use it against me. I make it very clear. It's not an excuse. It's not an excuse for bad work. I don't use it as an excuse, and I never have. I don't use it as an excuse, but I also don't let it be something that becomes a fear, because I think, okay, so this is an area that I'm not strong in. It's not one of my strengths. That does not mean I'm rubbish, full stop. So wherever I'm going, I will present that so that before anyone can say to me, oh, you look unprofessional, or this doesn't seem good, or that doesn't seem good, or this is the place, I have that piece of information there. And then what that does is it means, when you don't worry, because you end up sometimes you think, oh my gosh, I can't write something, so I'm not going to do something because people are not going to think I'm sensible, or because they're not going to think this about me. I'm saying no, that's not the case. And so therefore, anyone that then presents or dislikes what I'm presenting, I don't take it personally. I don't take it in. It's fine. I'm very much aware of what I can and what I cannot do. And I'm not going to get upset about it. I focus on the things that I have control over. I focus on the things that I can actually change. And that's been very, 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 very helpful. And in that self-awareness, particularly on the piece with regards to knowing how I present, I think maybe because I'm a character that's really out there. I know I'm Marmite. I say this to people. I've accepted that I am Marmite. Some people love me and some people cannot stand me. for them, I'm just too much. They'll have everything. Oh, I'm too loud, or it's too fast, or I'm too aggressive, or I'm just too whatever. For some people, I'm too much. And what I had to do very early on was decide, what did I care about? So did I think I was too much? Did I think I was too loud? Did I think I was too any of those things? And if I thought that, then I would adapt. But if I didn't think that, then it just meant that those people were not my people. Those people were not my tribe. They were not my crowd. And even as a professional now, so even with my clients that I work with, I put myself out there as me. I'm not trying to change myself at all. And so anybody who galvanizes anything negative from me, I'm not the problem. It just simply means we are not a fit. And I'm able to do that. And so therefore I'm able to present in front of you and be my authentic self, because I'm not trying to be anything else and worry about whether you like me or not. And if you don't, I can still be me, because that's not a problem. But me is not the problem. It's not a bad thing. I will be more upset to be putting myself out there, not as myself, and then try to galvanize things from that. So I definitely think the self-awareness piece.
Yeah. And that is a good point that you're making about observing yourself as well. Where you said you have good self-awareness, you've taken the time to look at how you are in certain situations. I think that it's very hard for people to see who they really are.
Yeah.
Because you have to accept the good, the bad, the ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You have to be able to accept all sides of yourself. Because in the observation, that's when you can transform. That's your word. That's when you can transform yourself in the observation, right? Because you can then ask yourself, wait, hold on. I'm being challenged here, and this feels uncomfortable, right? And in my uncomfortability, am I trying to adapt to that environment, or am I being authentic? What kind of things make me want to adapt to a certain environment, and what other things do I thrive at in being authentic? And then you can start to assess yourself, because then you really understand what your fears are and your belief system. Like, you see where you said, if someone says certain things about you, that you can think to yourself, hold on, okay, maybe I am a bit like this. I have done this, right? Oh, but that's not actually me, because you have to challenge your belief system. Do you believe that you are dyslexic and incapable?
Yeah.
Or do you believe that I'm dyslexic and this may be a challenge for me, but I can maybe take more time, work through it, or look for support? And me saying this is challenging for me is not saying I'm a failure. It's me being authentic with the person to let them know that this may be a bit of a challenge,
100%.
but I'm gonna work my way through it. That's being authentic, rather than trying to avoid doing it, not doing it at all, or telling a lie, or whatever it might be that you do to adapt to that environment. And I think that that's an important point that you made about self-awareness, observing who you are.
The other thing, so professionally, so the other big thing that I think we find, and I think is very, really pertinent to us, is this whole, so there's levels, okay? We all know there's who you are personally, and then there's who you are professionally. Like, there's a very clear, there's a clear boundary, there's a very clear difference. I think as Black people, and then as a Black woman, there's an additional level to that. There's definitely an additional level, because then there's the way you present in white spaces as a Black professional, okay? And often I think one of the biggest things that we struggle with and have to deal with is assimilating. And I think one of my biggest, and so that is the biggest thing for me about our limit to being authentic. I think we struggle. We all know that it's not necessarily the case how it was for me, but typically you're really not your authentic self at work.
Mm.
You know, that's one of the things, that's one of the struggles, because it's like, it's not that I just have to go to work professionally, because I can be professional, but there's this extra added layer on top of that that's expected, that we have to put on and that we have to deal with all the time. And I think it's important because that's stress. You know, your brain can only hold so much. And one of the reasons why often we are very stressed is because you're going into work. And so you're not even going into work starting fresh. It's 7 o'clock in the morning, but you're never fresh because you know you've got to watch your P's and Q's. You've got to watch your eyes because you know we're very expressive with our eyes. You've got to watch your eyes. You've got to watch your hands. So your
Your
brain is
neck
doing
tilts a little bit.
your, your brain is doing all this additional processing, and we haven't even got to work yet. We haven't even got to the crux of any sort of difficulty in work. So you having to show up and not be your true self and suppress yourself applies a different level of pressure to yourself. So,
That's mental health.
right, that's not something that you want to go through. And all honesty, so that self-awareness piece is important. But the reason why I was able to show up and be my authentic self in the workplace was all down to values. Values are very, very important. What are my core values? What's important? And for me, who I am, my culture, my blackness is very wrapped up in my value system. It's very wrapped up in my value system. And so I was leading and being and going to work every day from that value system. And so, like I said, if my values, I'm going to work and I'm doing my values through this process every single day, anything, anything that's going to cause any friction to my values, it wasn't my values that I was going to lose. The thing that's causing friction is going to be the thing that has to move or get pushed down,
Yeah.
or I have to take myself out of that situation. And I say that because the reality of the situation, like I told you, some people love me and some people hate me. So for doing the same thing. So you can't get up every day basing what you're going to do, who you are, on other people, because you're never, ever going to get that right. So as long as you are okay, you have that awareness, you say, I'm okay with the person that's being presented and putting out there. And this is coming from a place of my values. So what I'm doing, I know for me, this is correct. Then you're going to be okay presenting your true self. And I'd say the caveat to this is, doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. So I could say, whilst I done very well in my career going up, the road was far from easy. Far, far,
No.
far from easy.
I
And
mean,
I could have got there easier. I'm telling you, I could have, you know what, it's one of those things. I could have walked straight through the door, gone up the stairs, opened the next door and done it. But that wasn't in line with my values. And I wasn't prepared to not be my authentic self in those situations. So if it meant that I had to be like a soldier and do some MI5, jumping over barriers, dodging bullets and doing all that to get there, then that's what I was going to do. But I was going to get there cemented knowing I was myself and I was going to be very happy with that. And so back to what you were saying, Anne-Marie, you have to really decide what's important, those values. You have to really, 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 no one can decide that. You have to decide. It's not going to be easy. I think sometimes this thing about us trying to take the easy route is making us end up in situations that end up unpleasant anyway.
yeah, yeah, it really does. And then you end up back at the same place that you don't want to be in the first place. There's like three things that I was thinking about that maybe we could touch on. Is how do you assess discrepancies in your authenticity?
Mm-hmm.
So things that don't add up. So your actions don't add up what you're saying, for
Yeah.
example. You're saying something, but your behavior is opposite to that. Also self-doubt, because I feel like self-doubt plays an
Yeah.
important part in authenticity, and we kind of touched on it, who we believe we are, um do you feel that you can say how you feel,
Hmm.
etc., etc. And the one of the other ones that I talk about a lot is fear. Fear, I
Important. There's a
feel,
big one.
is um a big thing that plays up in whether you end up being authentic or not. How do you face your fear so that you can truly be authentic?
Mhm. Mhm. So, what about if we touch on that first one? What do you think on how do
So
you
about
challenging?
the pardon?
So, yeah, the first one about actually challenging yourself when you're being.
Yeah, because I, for example, right? I'm just going to use this example because it's just easier, right? When people go, okay, you know what kind of people when I say when people go, right? When people go, I'm not racist, I've got black friends, right? And then they go and say black people are XYZ. That's a discrepancy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which one are you,
Yeah.
right? And how do we challenge that? How do we challenge that within ourselves? Because those are parts of our belief systems that are really detrimental to how we relate with others, right? Because if I'm here and I go, you know what, right? Yeah, um, I understand myself as a black woman and the struggles that we face, right? But then there's another a black woman there that calls me for support, and I'd be like, Martha, can you believe Davina's calling me up talking about blah, blah, blah? She ain't blah, blah, blah. Really?
Yeah.
So your authentic self is bad mind.
No, do you know what? I don't think it's bad mind though. Because in all honesty, seriously, this is my positivity side. I honestly don't think, yeah, people are that bad. I honestly don't. We do things and our actions do this, but it's like what you're saying when you follow the trail. So I say this all the time. If you want to know what people's priorities are, look at your actions. Your actions talk about what you prioritize and what you value. Your actions, the real, not what you're talking, because talk is cheap. We say a lot of things, but your actions show you what you're prioritizing
Mm,
and what you value. Now, there is often a disconnect, even with the basic things of what we say and what we
of
do.
course.
And that's often because we are not actually conscious and together with what it is that we're doing. We take everything for granted and we do not realize how powerful our subconscious is and how much information we take in subconsciously. So do you know when you hear a song, I always say it like, do you know when you hear a song, you know when you hear that song and then you didn't even realize that you heard the song, and then you're walking and you can't get the song out of your head, and you know it's always a song that you hate. It's always a song that you hate, and you just have it in your head and you're like, I've got this stupid song in my head because it was played on the radio, but you wasn't even listening to it. Consciously, you weren't listening to it, but subconsciously, it brought itself in. Our subconscious is very powerful. The
Of
environment around
course.
us, it takes lots in. So if you don't consciously think about what it is that you value and what it is that you want, your subconscious is going to do all the work for you. And 9 times out of 10, all of the other information and things that you've been drawing in are not what you generally want to do and what you value. So what you might find is you yourself want to help other people and other women, but what you've been taking in is this world doesn't help people. You know, they're so evil. Be careful. You know, don't support one another. That's what your subconscious is taking in. And your subconscious is what actually powers your actions. So whilst you're saying to yourself, that's what I value and what I want to do, you haven't been consciously working towards that, and you're
Of
allowing
course
all
not.
the other stuff to take over. So even when there is a disconnect in between what you say and what you do, unless someone points it out to you, you're probably not even realizing it. And pretty much all of the other areas that you are going to mention are the things that lead to that. Because subconsciously, we're fearful of something. So
Yeah.
do everything else but face the fear. Subconsciously, we are doubting ourselves. We're doubting our value or for something. And there was something that got triggered in your subconscious that did that. It may have been you done an exceptional piece of something, you done something at work, right? Let's say you had a project, you were doing something, and your manager or whoever asked you to do something for it, you presented it, and the feedback was negative, or the feedback wasn't as positive as you expected. You probably took that in. You probably took that in. Subconsciously, you said to yourself, yeah, okay, but you took it in. And so now, you know, you're actually thinking the next time you're worried about doing that again. Or you're worried, now you're doubting, okay, I tried really hard. Just imagine, I tried really, 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 really hard at doing that thing and didn't get the positive feedback. You can take that in as I'm actually rubbish because I genuinely tried my hardest. So we have to also be conscious about the information that you take in or know how you take that in. Be honest with yourself, because I would be upset. I would be upset. I love feedback. I say to everybody, give me feedback. Everything, literally, ask my friends. They'll be everything I do. I say, give me feedback. Now, please, again, if you know me, this doesn't mean that I don't want the, you know, the round of applause. Of course, I want the round of applause. You know, like tell me how great I was. Woo! And then I'm going to say all that. But at the same time, I genuinely believe that my greatness has come from my ability to take back the feedback on areas which are not good and then go and make those areas better. And so I do that. That does not mean I don't have a defense. So when someone gives me feedback, subconsciously, the first thing I do is put my guard up. What do you mean? What do you mean talk slower? Like, especially as in my head, I thought to myself for the whole live, Martha, you talk fast, talk slower. So when I get the feedback and you say to me, oh, Martha, you're still talking too fast. Subconsciously, the first thing that comes to my head is, what do you mean talk slower? I was focused. It's natural, literally. It's the first. I asked you for the feedback, you know. I asked you for the feedback, but then I've still got my defensive up. So that's the first thing that comes to my head. And then I check myself. Martha, you asked for feedback, you're getting some feedback. Think about it. So yes, you may have been trying to work on speaking slower, but quite clearly, you still have some more work to do. And sometimes it may not be feedback. Also, you filter it. I asked you for the feedback. You've given me lots of different versions of the feedback. I take it in and I say, do you know what? I agree with some of that. Some of that actually, whilst it might be true, I don't mind. Or it's not a value that I'm trying to emulate, but something that I want to put forward. So I bin that piece of feedback.
Right.
So that's what
and
we
what
have to do. Yeah, go on.
And you know, like, what about doubt? Like when we doubt ourselves, because that could be doubting our authentic self, or it could be doubting your adaptive self, doubting your beliefs, the emotions that you're feeling at the moment. Because I think doubt can be a big thing. A doubt can lead you to being more authentic, or it could take you away from that space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we all have doubt within us, right? We all question ourselves, question what's happening to us. And questioning is a good thing, right? It's okay to have doubt, but it's not okay if it limits you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you use doubt in a more conscious, thoughtful way so that you can be more authentic?
I think with everything, you have to, I'm a realist. So the whole point of it, that authenticity is about being real. Doubt, I'm scared, I'm afraid, I'm worried. What is it? You're doubting because of something. So there might be genuine doubt. This is an area outside of my expertise. So that's coming from a place of, I don't know anything about this thing. So I'm gonna have to go and learn about it, right? Before I move forward. Or even when I've learned about it, it's still new. Ask me about education and coaching and personal development, like in my sleep. You know, just put me on somewhere now, ask me questions and I'll fly and I'll be fine. Ask me about a different area, nuclear biology or something. I guarantee you, even after I read the textbook, I'm still not gonna I'm still not gonna be able to talk to you about it. So there's some areas which are genuinely, you have a genuine reason for being doubtful. And I think it's up to us also to be honest with ourselves. Is this something I can find information about? So there's still some areas of personal development that I will need to go in and do some more information. And like all of these programs that we do, these are topics that we know about. These are topics that we've experienced, but we still do our research.
Yeah.
We still go and do research to make sure we're not just coming to you and telling you nonsense. So I'd say to yourself, don't put yourself in a situation where you're not going to be in that subconscious, where you're not going to be giving yourself positive reinforcement. If you know this is something outside of your expertise and your specialism, and it's something that you are not going to be able to do your best, then don't do it. That's not
Mm.
a hide away from something. But I'm saying maybe you need some more time to do it, or maybe you can't do it quite yet, or anything like that. But if that's genuine the case, then don't do it. But if it's just something I'm scared of, but you can try it, then listen, go for it. What's the worst that's going to happen? Listen, if you ask some of my coaches, they'll tell you all the time, my classic lie, my classic line, will you die? That's my, and people think it's strange, but I literally, like, it's that deep. Will you die? Ask yourself that question. Take that away. Take away. That's going to be the post that we're going to do after this. Will
Will you
you
die?
die? Honestly,
Well,
you're going to make a decision. You're doubting yourself, and you're going to. So when you're doubting yourself, I want you to think about all the reasons why you're doubting yourself. People are going to think I'm silly. I'm going to be ashamed. I'm going to this. I'm going to that. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. Ask yourself at the end of every single one of those questions, will you die?
well, I mean, but that's the exact point that when you're doubting yourself, right? Think to yourself, where is this doubt coming from? Right? If I'm saying that I don't feel that I'm going to be good enough, where is that coming from?
Mm-hmm.
What do I need to make me more sure?
Yeah.
Um, is this something that has been a part of my psyche for a very long time, not being good enough,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or or is this informing me that what I've believed for so long, in actual fact, I do not believe it, and so I need to make a stand, or
Mm-hmm.
I need to make a change. Think to
Yeah.
yourself, I've got doubt right now. What is this informing me? How can I use it to be more authentic? How can I use this doubt to be more my true self,
Mm-hmm.
rather than me staying in a place of just people pleasing, for example, not listening to how I really feel, trying to fit in. Just ask yourself, what is going on with me right
Mm-hmm.
now that I'm having this doubt?
Mm-hmm. And that
Um,
leads on to your fear one. So
yes.
see, fear is big because all of these things I think are underpinned by fear, right? You have doubt, but it's because you doubt something because you're fearful of the outcome. I'm scared, I'm fearful of being ashamed or whatever else. Fear is a very big, we underestimate the power of fear. And in those two realms, personally and professionally, I typically find that we are not our true selves on a personal side because we are fearful of losing friendships. And on the professional side, it's often wrapped up in credibility. So you're fearful of people not thinking, you're capable or you're competent, which therefore means either in your peers or colleagues group, you're not going to get that respect, or at a higher level means that you may not be seen as somebody who can take on leadership or something else. But generally speaking, I find in those two realms, they are what it is. And if we started on the personal side, I genuinely say to you, listen, if, so think about it like this. If you have to pretend to be someone else in your circle of friends, then you need to change your circle of friends. Do not be afraid of losing them. Lose them. You need to lose them. Because in the first instance, you collected those friends under false pretenses. You collected them under false pretenses. So in fact, you're a fraudster. You're a fraudster. You collected them under false pretenses. And for the rest of your life, remember what I said about all of the work that you need to do to put on this persona. That's a lot of work. Do you know why I don't lie? Listen, my brain can't handle lies.
But
My
listen,
brain
on
can't
listen,
handle lies. It
um,
can't.
I I really fear for me, as you said, is a big thing. I work with fear every day, right? And I want to talk about it in respect of the adaptive self and the authentic self. Because remember where in the beginning where I said knowing these two sides, the adaptive self
Mhm.
and the authentic self. The adaptive self, which I said, is the creative adjustment that you've made, right,
Mhm.
in order to deal with whatever is going on that's so scary that you feel like you want to avoid, that you can't face,
Mhm.
right? However, what we can't ignore is that the authentic self will be the part of you that is angry, that
Yeah.
is sad,
Mhm.
that is feeling frustrated,
Mhm.
that is going through grief. That's the authentic self, right? The authentic self is feeling all those things. The adaptive self is trying to mask that that's what's happening,
Mhm.
right? And the adaptive self, it's been created to help you through these difficult times, but sometimes in an unhealthy way where it's informing you not to look at the anger,
Mhm.
right? Don't look at that, right? You can't be angry, have anger, and be in the workplace. Really? You can't be in the workplace and feel sad. You can't be angry with your mother. You
Mhm.
can't feel disappointed with your sister, right? And so the adaptive self comes in, but you're not being true to yourself, and so you're just going to live in this space of constantly being in turmoil, right? And in that space you can build resentment, because in actual fact you're not really dealing with the issue,
Yeah.
right? You can start to do the things that um in the first place is why you became adaptive. For example, you can start rejecting people. You
100%.
you can start withdrawing. You can start becoming very toxic in relationships because you're not being your authentic self. You're not
And I
really
think it's
speaking
interesting.
about
I think it's
what's that?
interesting because you probably would have experienced, and counseling is a good example of that. How many people come to you and it's almost as though a light bulb moment when you realize that actually the problem is I haven't been dealing with all of these issues and I've been pretending to be something else rather than dealing with the actual issues.
Yeah. And you know what? I want to say to all the Black people who are on here today, there's nothing wrong with anger. Yeah.
I
There
don't
is
think you should tell. I
nothing
don't think
wrong.
you should tell them that. We'll go and have a riot.
No, no, that's not what I said. There is nothing wrong with anger. There's nothing wrong with any emotion. It's supposed to inform you of where you're at, how you're feeling, what's going on for you. There is nothing wrong with anger. It's the behavior that's unhealthy.
Mm,
It's your relationship with anger that is unhealthy,
yeah.
right? It's about how can I be my true, authentic self without unhealthy behavior,
Yeah.
right?
Very
I'd
true.
rather say, you know what? I feel really hurt by you because you said XYZ,
Yeah.
right? And then I can do further reflection and go even deeper and go, the reason why this has impacted me so much is because it's something that I've heard in my life before.
Before, yeah, yeah. There's normally some sort
And
of,
it informs some of my belief systems, some
yeah,
of my self-doubt, some
yeah,
of my me thinking I'm not worthy and I'm not good enough. I can go deep. I know that's my stuff. And when you said it, boy, you triggered me,
yeah.
right?
That's a
That
whole, that's a
when I now
whole
when I've
another
said all
topic.
of that, now when I've said all of that and I've gotten it out, right? I don't feel as angry anymore because I've let you know how I feel,
Hmm.
right? And I know that you didn't know all of that was going on for me in my background, right? And the reason you did what you did was more about you and where
Yeah,
you're at.
yeah,
So now I can leave you with that,
yeah.
right? You can take back your anger
Hmm.
because it no longer belongs to me,
Hmm.
and I can happily go my way.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
me being my true, authentic self,
yeah.
rather than me holding it down, cussing behind your back, pretending that we're friends, doing some kind of toxic behavior, withdrawing, contacting, and just making it even worse.
Hmm.
I could just say, do you know what? Hear what? This actually hurt me.
Yeah.
And then we can have a conversation. We can
Mhm.
build on that.
Yeah, and so that's a very good point to lead on to like our final points before we start to wrap up, because we've got about 7 minutes. We've got about seven
Seven?
minutes. So that kind
Oh,
of
is it?
leads on to the point of relationships, because often relationships, whether they are personal or professional, are where we are being or not being our authentic selves. Okay. And so the pieces before that, just the self-awareness to even know what your authentic self is. So some takeaways are: go away and find out who you really are. What is your authentic self? Because you might not even know what your authentic self is. Okay. So go away and say, what is my authentic self? What am I genuinely, not from no other person's places. It's not about what anybody else thinks. Okay. What are your strengths? What are your areas of development? What's in your control? What's not in your control?
Mm,
Well, how does all that level with your value system? Your value system is your purpose in life. That's your value system. Again, there's no judgment. It's not about anybody else. So go away and go think about those things and then evaluate your relationships, your personal ones, friends, and family. Now, family's hard. So I'm not even going to go there because family's hard. Family's hard, but I'm just going to say that I have learned from a long time that your friends are your family that you choose. None of us got to choose our family, but the same way there's a human being that is not your family member that is out there in the world that you dislike, that you think's a dickhead, that person is a family member to somebody.
mm. What
So
I
they
would,
could easily be that. Yeah, go on.
yeah.
So
No,
yeah, so
what I would like to add to that is, you know, where you said observe yourself and understand, become self-aware. Um, really also challenge your belief systems, right? And then once you've challenged your belief systems, identify what are your core values. What are your core values? Those are the things that will inform you whether you're living your true authentic self. Because when you get triggered or when you're in an environment, do you want to come away from your values or do you want to stay and stick by it?
yeah, you need to stick by them.
Right? Challenge those belief systems. I'm telling you, I love my family. Um, I think family is a great thing, right? But I don't know everything. Yeah. Just like society, they don't know everything, right?
Yeah,
Calling
definitely.
people, all labeling people and putting them into a box. For me, I question that because are you seeing the human being in front of you, or are you seeing a stereotype or a label?
Yeah, no,
And
I
who
think
do
you've
I want to be? Do I want to be someone that gets fixated on labels and putting people into a box? That's not who I am. So I would have to check myself if I start acting in that way or saying that, because am I being authentic, or am I trying to adapt to some environment that I'm in to fit in? So challenge those beliefs and really understand your core values.
Yeah. And so with the remainder of those relationships, like I said, family's hard. Check your friendships. Listen, we're we're not going to get into all of that 6 degrees of separations or how many people are around you and all of that stuff. But old saying, birds of a.
What happened? Okay, hold on a minute. Are you back now?
You really need to check the people that you are hanging around with every single day. So, and loss is difficult. That's often the thing that we're scared of. We are scared of broaching those very difficult conversations. We're scared of showing our true self because we're worried about loss. Do not worry
Hmm.
about losing something. People in your lifetime for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And so if you're now moving on to a new chapter, that might mean some old might need to get left behind. That's in your friendship spaces. And when it comes to the workplace, listen, the majority of us spend the majority of our time in a workplace. So again, you need to be able to be your authentic self. And so if you ain't up to it, if you aren't scrubbing up, scrub up, fix up, look sharp. If you
Yeah.
know in this environment you can't, then start doing the work to find a company or an organization that fits with your values, because you're going to have to work in that company for the majority of your time, minimum nine
Yeah.
to five, maybe Monday to Friday, until if this government, if the England has anything to do with it, continue till you're like 67 before you can retire. Like, it
Yeah.
has to be that you can't be going to work every day and not being your authentic self.
Yeah.
So the takeaway is this is not easy. Being real is actually one of the hardest things. It's very hard because relationships that you have made and environments that you were comfortable in are going to become very uncomfortable. But
Of
you have to
course. Of
decide
course.
for yourself what is important. Am I important and being myself important? Or is holding up this kind of fake image of myself what I want to do?
I
And
already have the feeling that you are already uncomfortable, right? You not being your authentic self, you are in these relationships, you are in this workspace, and you are freaking uncomfortable. You are angry, you are sad, you are frustrated, you're feeling overwhelmed, you are stressed, you are starting to have anxiety, you are starting to have panic attacks, you are starting to feel depressed. You not being your authentic self is leading you into that space where your mental health is suffering. So you have a choice, really, right? You can be your authentic self and not
be happy.
subject yourself to that space, right? And you being your authentic self, by the way, is you loving yourself.
Mhm.
Just so you know,
Yeah.
right?
So I love me. So this is all real up in here. That's what you're gonna get. So Marmite, baby.
Right.
Marmite.
So we are finished. We have ended. This is the end of the show. Thank you for joining. Thanks for everyone that came and said hi. I hope you taken away from this today, right? We are saying live your true self. Be your true self, live the experience and find your